So what does it mean to put up, quote, empty stats? I feel like we hear this term thrown around all the freaking time. The most prominent example I can think of is, I guess, Devin Booker back in like 2017 or 2018. He was putting up 25 points a game, but because his teams were losing so badly, people used to say he put up empty stats. But now that his team is winning, we don't say that anymore. It's a weird, derogatory phrase that's used to belittle somebody's accomplishments. Personally, I don't think Booker ever put up empty stats, to be honest. But since his team is winning now, I guess they're not empty stats anymore? However, in this video, I want to take a look at 3 NBA players who are legitimately putting up empty stats. Sometimes it looks like they're just chucking up shots just for the hell of it. Or because their teams have no other options. Sometimes it doesn't even look like they want to win the game. Alright, how's it going, folks? My name's Andy, and let's get started. Kelly Oubre. Oubre is a guy who, if you haven't watched him in recent years, your only memory of him is probably back when he played for the Wizards. In his first few seasons in the league, he was considered a high-potential prospect with a lot of upside, and because he was super young and a role player, no one really criticized him. However, as the years went by and Oubre took on a bigger role in every subsequent team he's been on, fans have quickly realized this dude is not good. Despite him averaging 20 points a game for the Hornets, it might look good on paper, but he's gotta be the worst player in the NBA who's averaging 20 points a game. In fact, Oubre hasn't had a single season of his entire career where he was a net positive in plus-minus. When he's on the floor, his team is worse. It's been like this all the time. It's been like this with every team he's been on. Besides his horrific efficiency, which dipped to a 52% true shooting percentage, roughly 5 below the league average for small forwards, Oubre also has one of the lowest basketball IQs I've ever seen. He's so tunnel visioned, he barely ever passes, his court vision is non-existent, and his level of basketball sense is ridiculously low. I feel like every time he touches the ball, he's gonna try to score. Oubre's 1.1 assists per game is laughably low, especially for a wing player. Not to mention, he has a whopping usage rate of 26.5%. That's like an all-star level usage rate. Oubre has the usage rate of an all-star, but obviously he doesn't have the skills of one. Perhaps I'm being a bit harsh. With LaMelo Ball's season-ending injury, this is a lost season for the Hornets. They've been so bad due to his absence, and the absence of Miles Bridges. With those two gone, I guess Oubre was kind of forced into this role. Nobody else on the team can step up and shoot as much as he does. Nobody else has the confidence that he does. Terry Rozier falls into a similar boat as well. With the Hornets missing their previous 2 leading scorers, he too took on a much bigger role. As a result, his efficiency suffered. Overall, the two of them are averaging the most empty 20 points per game of any duo in the league. Jalen Green. You might have heard me talk about Jalen Green in a previous video I made about Alperen Şengün. In that video, I said that Green was putting up some great counting stats, but if you really watch him play, there's so many issues with his game. The truth is, Green, being their former 2nd overall pick, he's expected to become a star. The Rockets want him to become a star. That's why they drafted him so high, and that's why they're giving him the green light, trying to force him to develop by giving him the biggest role on the team. He is a young player, only his 2nd season in the NBA so far, but it doesn't excuse him from the fact that he hasn't improved at all since he came into the league. Green's usage rate of 28.4% is even higher than Nikola Jokic's usage of 27.1%. He's literally using up more possessions than the MVP. At a glance, you see his 21 points a game, you see his highlights, and they don't look that bad. Since few people outside of Houston have watched Rockets games this season, the general consensus is that Green has shown no signs of being a future face of the franchise. Among all players averaging at least 21 points a game, Green has the 2nd lowest true shooting percentage, with 53.7% as of this video. There are a few reasons why Green has hit this sophomore slump, one of which is that defenders are focusing on him more. For example, in his rookie year, according to the NBA tracking dashboard, 21.2% of his shots were wide open, but this season, only 15.8% of them are. Not only that, but he's creating more off the dribble. Last season, 44% of his 2s and 66% of his 3s were assisted. This season, that has dropped to 34% and 58% respectively. So if you think about it, even though he's seeing more defenders every game and he's creating his own shots more often, his numbers aren't that bad. I mean, it's still well below average, but it's not all his fault either. The majority of his team is pretty damn bad. For example, the Rockets are the worst three-point shooting team in the league. Due to their poor shooting, they have a lack of space. It makes it harder for Green to flourish when defenders can just sag off their man so easily. The team simply doesn't have really any other threats. In the future, as this team develops and his teammates improve, Green should get better as well. Right now though, the numbers he's putting up are quite empty and meaningless. He's just taking a lot of shots and forcing up so many bad ones. The Rockets have thrown him into the fire, but he's struggling to adapt. It's not just his shooting, Green also has tunnel vision a lot. He's sometimes doing too much with the ball, more than what he's currently capable of. Anthony Edwards, a good friend of Jalen, was asked about how to overcome these issues as a young player, to which he responded, quote, "Take easier shots. Sometimes you gotta catch and shoot instead of taking a dribble step back, because I was the same way in my second year. But he's growing, just like me. I'm still learning. Him and I are similar in that aspect, taking harder shots because we know we can make them. But once he makes the game easier for himself, he's gonna be super good." Hopefully, Jalen will get it together in the next few years. Oh, the Rockets certainly need him to. Dillon Brooks. I mentioned earlier in the season how much of a liability Dillon Brooks is. I mean, you can probably tell just by watching him. He's had his moments on defense, being one of their better perimeter defenders, but his offense is so putrid that it's not worth it. And over the course of the season, the Grizzlies noticed this too. Brooks started taking fewer and fewer shots and his role slowly diminished. But that's great for the team. From the beginning of the season until the end of December, Brooks took about 16 shots a game. Since the start of January until now, he's averaging fewer than 12 shots a game. His efficiency has gotten even worse compared to the start of the year, now hovering around a 48% true shooting percentage. For comparison, the average small forward this season has a true shooting percentage of 57%. Still, even with his lesser role, Brooks is still averaging the third most shots per game on this team, despite his efficiency being massively lower than anyone else in the starting lineup. Brooks is shooting like 28% from mid-range and 36% in the paint, outside the restricted zone. Those are just horrendous numbers, and I want to say it's due to poor shot selection, but even when he's relatively open, he still struggles to hit those shots. Offensively, he's on like Josh Smith levels of production when he was in Detroit. He's always actively hurting his team on offense. It's even worse when you consider that the Grizzlies are actually trying to contend. In the playoffs last year, Brooks was such a huge detriment to the team, not only with his bad shots but also with his fouls. This time, it's gonna be interesting to see what the Grizzlies do with him. If he's holding them back too much, if he's performing too poorly, a couple of DNPs could be on his way. Anyway, that's all folks. Those were 3 of the most empty stat players in the league. Basically, their amount of usage, the amount of shots they take, they do not benefit their teams, and in most cases, they hurt them. Let me know in the comments if you can think of any other players who fall into this category. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope y'all enjoyed the video, and of course, as always, I'll see you next time. Peace.